Well, hey guys, I'm going to be reviewing for you all today the Skinmedica TNS Essential Serum. This has been highly requested by you guys. This is a $281 per 1 ounce serum that has growth factors derived from fibroblasts. What exactly are growth factors? They are large proteins that circulate between cells and get cells in the body to do things like divide and secrete things and whatnot. In the skin, we have a variety of different cell types, and specifically a cell type called the fibroblast is what is responsible for making collagen and elastin in the skin and the supportive framework of our skin. With age, growth factor production in the skin declines, and that parallels loss of collagen in our skin as well as loss of elasticity and the visible signs of photoaging like wrinkles and fine lines. Beyond simple chronological aging and age-related loss of collagen and elastin, you also have external factors driving that even further, namely ultraviolet radiation, pollution, smoking, poor sleep, certain lifestyle habits, which I've covered in my tips to keep your skin looking young video, which you should totally check out. Anyways, so you lose growth factors with time, you lose collagen, you lose elastin, and that's what contributes to the appearance of wrinkles and fine lines and photoaging and whatnot. There are several small studies demonstrating benefits of topically applied, physiologically balanced growth factors in terms of improving the appearance of wrinkles and fine lines and overall skin smoothness. When it comes to fibroblasts in the skin, there are actually two different types that we have to think about. Fibroblasts reside in the deeper layer of the skin called the dermis. In the top part of the dermis, you have one type of fibroblast, and then in a deeper layer of the dermis, you have another type of fibroblast. It's those fibroblasts in the upper layer of the dermis that become altered with age, whereas those lower down are not so much. So the thinking here is that applying growth factors to the skin, they would get into the skin and help with the signaling of those fibroblasts that have become less responsive with age, and therefore you would have like a trickle down effect of boosting up collagen production and elastin in the skin and restoring the look of photo damaged skin. How do you go about getting growth factors? Actually, there are a few ways that growth factors can make their way into your skincare products. You have, in the case of this product, growth factors derived from those cells of fibroblasts. You also can get growth factors from other cell types in the skin, like the fat cells. And then you can get growth factors from non-human sources like snail secretion, for example. I have a video talking all about that. And the nice thing about fibroblasts and why they are more compelling than other cell types and other forms of growth factors is that the fibroblast is a cell in the skin that actually can become other cell types in the skin. It can become a fat cell, and so it's more of interest in terms of its potential and the growth factors that it secretes as far as guiding differentiation in the skin. I have several videos discussing growth factors in skincare products, and I have to tell you guys, amongst dermatologists, there's division as to whether or not these are worth it and whether or not they actually do anything. Skeptics like myself maintain that growth factors are very large in size, and so how they actually get into the skin and penetrate to do all of this magic, it seems very unlikely. And we know that large size molecules in products a lot of times just function as humectants. So are these really costly ingredients genuinely yielding these outcomes? But others are adamant that they actually do in fact work and benefit their patients and continue to tell their patients that they should buy these products. Now, Skinmedica is owned by Allergan, a massive pharmaceutical company, but they're not the only ones with their hand in this fibroblast growth factor serum pot. You'll recall I reviewed Neocutis's fibroblast growth factor serum a while ago. Neocutis is owned by Merz, I believe, another massive pharmaceutical company. And proponents of growth factors in skincare products, they feel strongly that fibroblasts are the best source for reasons that I've just explained. So how do they go about getting these growth factors? Well, it's a bit of a babying process. You basically grow cells in a dish, and as part of maintaining cells in a dish, you kind of have to babysit them and feed them. You put media on top of the cells in the dish that has things like sugars and amino acids and things that the cells need to divide, and then you have to change out that media. Well, the cells, they release growth factors. So as you collect the media and replace it with fresh, you basically have what's called conditioned media that's rich in potentially growth factors. As part of the TNS complex, that's kind of what they're cultivating here and collecting and enriching is this media basically. And that is kind of how the TNS part of their serum is formulated, I would imagine. There's more to the TNS product though besides the growth factors. It's actually a dual chamber pump. Within the pump, there are 2 chambers, and in one chamber you have the fibroblast derived growth factors, and in the other chamber you have a ton of other things, including antioxidants. There are also peptides that I've told you guys in other videos. Peptides, they might get into the skin and they might help in boosting collagen, but in many cases may just act as humectants, helping to hydrate up the skin, which is not a bad thing. But anyways, there's also some antioxidants, as I mentioned. There's coenzyme Q10, green tea. There is Saccharomyces ferment filtrate in there, which I've got videos talking about the benefits of prebiotics and probiotics in skincare, but Saccharomyces ferment filtrate is one source of that, so you're getting that in that other chamber. And then the other chamber, you're also getting hyaluronic acid, a wonderful humectant, and you're getting alpha-arbutin, a skin brightening agent. I've got a video on that, so check that out. But yeah, I mean, the other chamber is called the APS complex. There's a lot going on in that second chamber. And I imagine the reason they're the dual chamber is that these other ingredients, they probably compromise the stability of the growth factors if they were contained in one chamber. So they have 2 separate chambers, but then when you squeegee the pump, there are 2 holes, so you get a dollop of both products kind of combined coming out of the 2 holes within the pump. But does this thing actually do what it's supposed to do? Does it make us look better? Does it work? So Skinmedica conducted a study that they will often refer to when they're talking about their product. It was done in 2017, and the study, there was part of the study was clinical, meaning on actual patients, and part of the study was done looking at basically cells in a dish exposed to the TNS. So I'll just explain to you how their study worked. Basically, it was a placebo-controlled 12-week study, and the people in the study were randomized to either be in the active group or the placebo group. The active group had to use a skincare routine that included a cleanser, a moisturizer, and a sunscreen, like the basics of skincare, plus the TNS serum to be applied twice daily. Whereas the placebo group had to do the basic skincare routine of cleanser, moisturizer, and sunscreen, but they got nothing else. It went on for 12 weeks, and the TNS group started seeing benefit as early as 2 weeks in terms of improvement of wrinkles and fine lines, and that benefit continued to build outwards to 12 weeks, which is the last time point that was examined. At the end of the 12 weeks, their study showed that the TNS group had a significantly greater decrease in global fine lines and wrinkles, as well as global coarse wrinkles, so the deeper wrinkles, in comparison to the placebo arm. But herein is where I have an issue with this study. So, okay, first of all, it's small and a short window of time. Those are some of the obvious issues here. And it's great that it's placebo controlled, but it's not good enough, because if you look at this, there's no vehicle control. And what I mean by that is the active group gets an additional product, whereas the placebo group gets nothing. So for the participant in the placebo group, they know they're not getting the growth factor serum, basically. They know they're not getting the cosmeceutical. And why do I say that matters? Well, there are a lot of things in the product, as I've mentioned, beyond the growth factors, arbutin, hyaluronic acid, a lot of other things that could explain maybe some potential benefit that has nothing to do with this expensive, laboriously obtained fibroblast growth factor serum. So that's an issue. But the other thing is, like, let's talk about compliance here. How likely do you think somebody is to keep up with something that they know they're not getting? Probably not. You know, an issue with these studies is they kind of self-select people who are motivated, and, you know, they're cosmetic patients who are motivated to pursue products that are going to lead to improvement of wrinkles and fine lines. But if you know you're not getting the product, like, how likely are you to stick with it? And as an illustrative point within this study, if you look, initially they enrolled patients. They had 19 patients in the TNS arm and 16 in the placebo, but 3 people dropped out of the placebo group. Nobody withdrew from the TNS group. Duh. I mean, the TNS group knows they're getting the good stuff, and the good stuff's expensive, so of course they're going to stick with it. Whereas the placebo group, I mean, the fact that you had people withdrawing from the placebo group and not the TNS group, it kind of speaks to this behavioral element that you have to factor in with studies like this, that people who know they're not getting the product, they're less likely to keep up with it. Let's talk about the skincare routine here: the cleanser, the moisturizer, and the sunscreen. How do we know that people actually did that at all? We don't. So, like, the people in the placebo group, how likely is it that they complied with the cleanser, moisturizer, and sunscreen? There's nothing to assess that compliance in the study. It's actually very hard to control for that, and, you know, that's always going to be an issue. Likewise, the active group, how do we know they complied with the cleanser, moisturizer, and sunscreen? We don't. But I can imagine that the active group, knowing that this 4th product that they are getting is the test product. I mean, they're not blinded to the fact that they're getting something. Knowing that, they're probably more likely to comply with that because they perceive that that is the good stuff, and so they're more likely to. So what I imagine as a potential downfall of how this was done is that you have a placebo group who's doing nothing, or at least some of them are likely doing nothing, and you have an active group who's just putting on the TNS product, which is giving them beneficial outcomes in terms of improving wrinkles and fine lines. But you have to ask yourself, to what extent is that related to the actual product, and not just simply the fact that the product is moisturizing and those outcomes could be obtained by just using a basic moisturizer? I mean, short of pinning the people down on a bed and physically applying the products to their skin, it's really hard to have a sense of that. And with such a small study, it's definitely something that you have to question. I will show you the images that they put in the paper here showing the improvements in wrinkles and fine lines. But when you look at the images here, the before and after, given what I just told you, that element of doubt, right? Doesn't it make you think, like, the before and after? Could you get that after by going to the Dollar Tree and putting on a moisturizer on your skin? Like, knowing that there's no way to control for what else these people were doing, it does lead you to be a little bit more suspicious, as opposed to what the reps from Skinmedica might just tell you right up front, like, oh yeah, can't you see the improvement with our product, as opposed to placebo didn't show that. They don't show any images of the placebo group too, so you don't really know that. Another part of the study, though, was actually done on looking at the expression of genes for things like collagen and elastin, which is the goal here is to get the cells in the deeper layers of the skin to make more collagen and whatnot to improve wrinkles and fine lines. And they actually compared it to other products on the market. They compared it to other products on the market that contain fibroblast derived growth factors, as well as products on the market that contain non-fibroblast growth factors, and products on the market that had non-human growth factors. So as an example, they compared it to the Neocutis product, which I reviewed for you guys in terms of fibroblasts. They compared it to Obagi and Jan Marini have some non-fibroblast growth serums. And they also compared it to that BioPel product that is snail filtrate. And there were a few other brands in there. I can't remember every single one. But basically, they put these products on cells, and then they collected the cells 24 hours later, and they measured basically the expression of genes related to collagen and elastin production. And they showed that their product resulted in quite robust expression of collagen and elastin in comparison to the competitors. But you know, here's another issue with this, is they only collected the time point at 24 hours. So it really could be a factor of potency. You know, perhaps if they had looked at an earlier time point in the study and measured gene transcripts at an earlier time point, or even a later time point, you might see those levels of expression, and they're not capturing it in just this one single time point. So I personally would like to see more time points. To backtrack a little bit, I think I said that they were putting these on cells in a dish. That's actually not entirely correct. They put it on skin models, 3D skin models. So, and then they collected the deeper part, the dermis part of the model, and that's what they were measuring the gene transcripts from. So that's nice, in that they used a skin model as opposed to just cells on a dish. So that kind of gets at diffusion and actual penetration of the ingredients into at least the model of the skin. You know, that's always a question that we're going to have, is like, do these actually get in? Their data would imply or suggest, although it doesn't really show this, that in fact these growth factors do, at least to some extent, have an effect on gene expression from the deeper layers. But it's not the most well-controlled set of experiments. And like I said, I'd like to see more time points. I'm not convinced that it's necessarily more effective than Neocutis, for example, another fibroblast derived growth factor serum. Like, they could just be cherry picking time points, is what I'm getting at here, and they're not showing you other time points. So you have to be suspicious of that, as I am. The thing about the skin models that I'm not clear on from the paper is if they put the APS complex part of the product, or if it was just the growth factors, because that you would have to wonder too. Like, now they're comparing products that have pretty much mostly growth factors to their product, which is a lot more than just growth factors. So they're not really getting at how effective their growth factors are. Like, they need to compare maybe some products on the market that have stuff like alpha arbutin and CoQ10 to see how those affect things, if at all. But I'm not sure if that part was actually included in the 3D skin model part of it. So, you know, that's what I can tell you about the science, although obviously it's very limited with these. You know, when it comes to growth factors, there's always this question and point of contention, and just, I don't feel good about it, is that growth factors, it's great, they stimulate collagen production and all this good stuff, but remember, there are cells in our skin that have some early pre-malignant changes. So to what extent feeding them with growth factors could ultimately contribute to skin cancer formation? I'm not convinced that we have ruled that out. Proponents of products like this, dermatologists who swear by these products and you know, are on team growth factor, they maintain that there's no reason to think that that exists, that doesn't happen, it hasn't been reported. And if you think about it, it would be really challenging to prove that products with growth factors did in fact accelerate skin cancer onset, because these are non-drug cosmetics that people just buy for, you know, for cosmetic reasons, not for a medical reason like you would take a medication for. So we have no way of tracking this, is one issue. And when it comes to skin cancer, we all have sun damage in our skin with what are called UV signature mutations. And so teasing out exposure to growth factors from just cumulative sun exposure over time, it's just going to be something that's really hard to tease out. People who are using this seeking an anti-aging benefit, presumably they already have wrinkles and fine lines, evidence of existing photo damage in their skin. These are probably people who are likely going to go on to make skin cancers regardless of what they do. I mean, there's a good chance, not everybody, but there's a good chance that it's going to, you know, self-select people who are going to make skin cancers no matter what. So it's going to be something that is always going to be hard to pull out. And with products like this, they're so expensive. You know, you have to question how compliant are people going to be with these things long term for it to really have an effect on skin cancer risk, if that is an issue. And with that being said, how likely are people going to comply with using a $280 serum twice a day for the rest of their life? It seems unlikely, and you know what's going to happen, you guys. You know it. The skincare industry is not that fixed, right? There are going to be like 100 other things that are going to fart out in the next 2-3 years that will distract consumers. And TNS, this, you know, the Skinmedica product, they, you know, that'll be a fleeting interest basically. And so you know, to what extent this is going to remain a fixture in people's skincare routine, particularly at that price point, I am doubtful. Do I think this product is worth it? I have my doubts when it comes to growth factors, that they actually work. But, you know, there is a body of evidence showing that growth factor containing serums, they do improve the look of wrinkles and fine lines. So, you know, I don't have an issue with them. Beyond the fact that they are expensive, costly ingredients that basically you have to continue using. It's not the kind of thing that you can just use for a few weeks, derive benefit, and then boom, you have a fixed outcome. You have to keep using it consistently, indefinitely, to maintain those outcomes of improved appearance of wrinkles and fine lines. To what extent that is going to be greater than just using a basic moisturizer along with sun protection consistently, I can't tell you guys. I'm not convinced from what I've seen. But the other issue with the Skinmedica product is that it has fragrance in it. So long-term consistent use of this product, you do run into the risk of developing a contact sensitivity to the fragrance that could also sensitize you to some of the other ingredients, either the growth factor stuff or the antioxidants, peptides and things like that. I mean, there is a risk for contact sensitivity and contact dermatitis, and you know, so that's always going to be the case with any product, but in particular with products that have fragrance and with a frequency of twice a day, you know, you're kind of, it's even greater of a risk. So that would obviously be an issue beyond the price point and the questionable efficacy. I imagine they add fragrance to these things because they do smell a little funky, makunky. The other thing with these growth factors is like, yeah, like, you know, there are some things where like if you look at it with one eye closed, like, you know, maybe you could convince yourself that these are working and doing things. But we have real data with vitamin A, topical vitamin A, on boosting collagen production and improving wrinkles and fine lines. So like, what are you attempting to achieve here with this hand-waving other stuff that's super, super expensive? You know, if you're gonna go chasing things, retinol is much more logical, as, you know, and then, you know, you could make an argument for vitamin C, although I've told you guys like the issues with vitamin C and the stability. Oh, that being said, their product has vitamin C in it as well. I forgot to mention that. The TNS, the AP complex or whatever, has vitamin C. It doesn't have L-ascorbate. It has one of the THD ascorbate, which hasn't really been shown yet to yield those same outcomes. But yeah, I mean, a lot of what you're seeing here could be due to that, if anything. Scroll the comments. I guarantee there's going to be comments from people who use this, love it, swear by it, pledge allegiance to it, say it works, and gives them good outcomes. And then there are going to be people who are like, I wasted my money on that. It broke me out. It didn't work. I didn't see a difference. That's the nature of cosmeceuticals. I can't predict. Comment below. I want to know how it worked out for those of you who have used it, because I know a lot of you have tampered with the TNS. But if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and as always, don't forget, sunscreen and subscribe. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye.